but it's all about that ball from Douglas, man. It's all about that ball from Douglas. What a player. What a player.
Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always, my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, Aston Villa 2, AZ Alkmaar 1. We've got the job done. 2 big games left now in the Europa Conference League just to secure qualification. How are you feeling the morning after?
Yeah, man. I think it was a very important result. That's probably the best place to start, is that absolutely important that we got that result yesterday, that we got the 3 points on the board and took ourselves back to the top, back to a strong position to qualify for the next round. And I think the only man happier with yesterday's game than I will be Boubacar Kamara, because that was an absolutely shocking miss, but it's been resigned to the doldrums of Villa history because thankfully we scored from the resulting corner. But yeah, that more than spared his blushes last night, didn't it?
It's funny that we've come away from this, and obviously that miss wasn't a corner. Unai Emery's come out and said, and sort of looking back, VAR got that wrong. They also got our first goal wrong, which at the time I didn't understand how it was. I know the offside rule is confusing at the best of times, right? And it comes down to interpretation of the laws, which is why it's always so confusing. But my interpretation of the law is that as soon as that ball is played to Ollie and he heads the ball, Leon Bailey, although he is standing in an offside position, isn't interfering with the play because he's not in front of the goalkeeper. He's not, he's not calling for a pass. He's literally stood right where he took the corner moments before. And that's not a pass from Ollie Watkins to Leon Bailey. It's a shot on goal that has gone drastically, the wrong way and has resulted with the ball falling at Leon's feet. And they've obviously come out after the game and said that the goal should have stood because of this reason. And even when it happened, I couldn't get in my head. I didn't think Leon was actually as far offside as he was. Not that I was necessarily looking at him because all eyes were on Ollie. But common sense to me suggested that if that had gone back across the goal, then Leon had to have moved somewhat and have still potentially been in an offside position. But regardless of that, he wasn't deemed to be interfering with play. A ball's come out to him in no man's land. And it's a shame because it's a great header from Clement Longley. And he seemed quite overwhelmed when he scored. He seemed really happy, sort of overjoyed, and didn't really know what to do with himself. But it's a frustrating one, and I guess it's only fair, as I already said, to point out the mess up with. Well, I guess it's not even VAR, the referee really, with the Kamara, miss, because we could be sat here saying, well, VAR should have given us a goal, but realistically, we've gone and got another goal as a result of a refereeing mistake, not a VAR mistake. So it's important to highlight both, especially in a week where there have been statements and there has been outrage, even like last night before our game with the Liverpool game. I'm sure everybody's seen. So the fact that we're sat here after a big win in a European competition and it's the first thing that we've raised on the podcast, it says a lot really about the state of the game, doesn't it? And I know you don't like to come on here and slam officials and slam VAR, but it's almost impossible not to after the week and a half that we've just witnessed in the Premier League and in European competition, mate.
Yeah, I think it's important that it kind of leveled itself out, and I think the kind of conversation around it will be doled down by the fact that we got the win. I think how do we come out of this with a draw, God forbid, a defeat? I think the kind of narrative around it would have been really different. But yeah, what was bizarre is that on commentary, because obviously Ollie has the shot, I think it's Jordi Classy who's on the line that kind of heads it off the line and it falls at the feet of Leon Bailey. And what was bizarre is that on commentary, they were kind of like, the referee's got that spot on, it's gone out to Leon Bailey. He's in an offside position. Quick decision, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, Okay. I thought that because the defender had headed it on to Leon, that would therefore make him onside. But it's one of those where I was like, look, like the complexities of the game and VAR and everything like that means that I think we figure out new rules about the game maybe every other week at this stage that perhaps we didn't know before. And I was like, okay, I'll hold my hands up. But it felt like a weird one at the time, and it was interesting to learn after the game that, yeah, that kind of bizarre sentiment that maybe we all felt was correct all along. I think you've then got a kind of similar incident with their goal in the lines are the inconclusive angle that they kind of use and the way that they draw the lines. I don't think that there can be any way that they can guarantee that it's offside or onside. The lines are literally placed on top of one another, and the angle that they've used is at such a bizarre, like it's nowhere near straight on. It's at such a bizarre angle, and the players that it's involving, so Pavlidis and I think the furthest man is Ezri Konsa, are right on the other side of the pitch, and so where they draw the lines from is guesswork, to be honest with you. But what I will say is that I'm glad that they gave the goal. Obviously, not in terms of Villa, that Villa can conclude, but I think the benefit should always be given to the attacking player when it's too close to call. I think just for the enjoyment of the game and how difficult it is to score goals nowadays, we want to see more goals given than get chalked off, especially. So I actually kind of advocate for that, to be honest with you. I think when you see VAR checks that go on and on and on and they take ages and they're drawing and redrawing and drawing and redrawing the lines, you kind of just think that, like, if it's this close, give the attacker the benefit of the doubt. And so they get the goal from that. Pavlidis takes it quite well. But yeah, I mean, the Kamara one is not even close. Like, it's not even close. You can see, like, it's the defender is nowhere near getting a toe on that. He's coming from behind Kamara. So I left the referees assume that he's kind of wrapped his leg all the way around and has got a touch to take it over the bar. But yeah, it kind of evens itself out. But it's a shame that Clement Longley didn't get his goal, because I think I just wanted to kind of give him a little shout out, really, because he has a kind of, he's coming from Barcelona, he's just played for Tottenham Hotspur. You could more than forgive him for thinking that he come in and would be one of the more senior players in this squad. He's got a bank of experience that could be really, really useful. And with the injury that we had for Tyrone, and given that he was signed to kind of be Tyrone's replacement as the ball-playing left-footed centre-half in the squad, that he would play a little bit more than maybe he has. But he seems to have accepted his role in the squad really well. And he kind of plays on these European nights, and I think he's been a really good addition to the squad in that sense. And as you say, like when he scored yesterday, he looked really made up for himself, and rightly so. And I think that, given that we've heard kind of murmurs and rumours of discontent, all of which have been shut down, and we'll never know just how much truth there was in that, but from the likes of Tielemans, and there's even been a couple of creeping out the woodwork about John Duran and stuff like that. Clement Longley has kind of come in, gone about his business, been very quiet about it, and by and large, I think he's done a very good job. So I was a bit disappointed he didn't get the goal, to be honest with you, pal.
Nah, same, mate, same. It's like in games like this where, he's obviously trusted to play in a European game. We're not, we've sort of, I think Unai has probably learned from his mistakes in the lineup against Leisure, right? Every team that we've put out then has been pretty strong. So it's not like a charity case of, we'll give him the Thursday games. Like, this is just as important as playing on the Sunday. So, for him to perform as well as he did, almost get the goal, you got to be happy for him. And I mean, he managed 99 touches during the game, 90% pass accuracy, won 2 of his ground duels, played 4 accurate long balls out of 7. I thought his long passing was really good. And I've seen a few people say he's not Pau, which you're correct, he's not Pau, but it's not far off. It's not far off. And yeah, I'm happy for him as well. We need healthy competition for the squads, and I don't think if come Sunday, mate, and it's Fulham and Clement Longley starting, there's no reason for people to fret. Like, this is a seasoned pro, and yeah, share the same sentiment, mate. Absolutely made up for him. One last thing on the sort of disallowed goal though, mate. Just from, you score 3 minutes in, and if that goal is given correctly, as it obviously should have been, that changes the whole trajectory of the game, because within 3 minutes we are 1-0 up, and this AZ team that came to contain and essentially do exactly what Nottingham Forest did at the weekend, have to then attack for 87 minutes. And we saw just how much that the game sort of flipped on its head after we got the levelling goal from Diego Carlos. There was a lot more space that opened up, and you don't score the second goal without, one, a fucking marvellous ball from Douglas Luiz to Ollie Watkins, but two, the space that we're able to create from them having to sort of chase a game. So it's frustrating from one end, but again, we've managed to get the job done against another side that has come against us, whether it's home or away, and not really intended to come and play football. So we have to take solace in that. And again, I'm looking at the offsides, mate. There was 8 offsides in this game. There was for AZ. There was 9 in the Forest game. So we're playing the high line very well. We're catching them out. To be honest, it didn't come as a surprise, their goal, because they kept playing that ball, and just, law of averages would suggest that they have to be onside at least one time. But it happens. Like, that's just how we play. And I think, again, like, it's redundant anyone sitting and complaining about high lines and offsides and this and that, because it seems like it's something that we've actually almost got nailed down, like 100%. Like, we're very close to that.
Well, it reminded me a lot of Ange on Monday night, right? Kind of coming out at post-game and sort of saying that no matter what, 9 men, 5 men, 11 men will play the same way, no matter who it is, no matter where we are. The system never changes. And I think Unai is very much cut from the same cloth, to be honest with you, in that he has his style, he has his principles, and he will stick by them. And it means that sometimes you're left kind of on the edge of your seat where the ball goes over the top. The linesmen obviously are instructed to let the play run, and that you're never quite sure if it's onside or offside. And there's always that kind of moment of peril when you're desperately hoping that the linesman's flag does go up. But by and large, it's been a wonderful system for Villa, and you definitely can't fault it. And I think that we've got some very fleet-footed defenders that help make it work. And I think it worked well last night. I think they definitely it was a real problem for them in the first game, and Pavlidis was offside a lot in the first game. And I thought over the course of the 180 minutes, they wisened up to it a little bit, and you can kind of see that they get their goal from that kind of situation. He kind of learned to give himself an extra yard and a half, pull off the defensive line slightly, and start to make that run maybe a second earlier than he would have perhaps in the away leg. And so it'll be interesting to see how we kind of adapt to that over the course of the Premier League season and in European competition, where hopefully as we get into the knockout stages and you have home and away legs and teams have that opportunity to wise up from the first set of 90 minutes for the second leg, whether we do kind of employ any kind of new measures to counteract that. But it doesn't seem that Unai is too fussed, and rightly so. So it definitely worked for us.
I think that, I can't remember if I mentioned it on the last podcast, but the whole discourse around the Ange and the high line and it being brave and brilliant and marvellous, like, we've been doing it every time we do this, which is every game. We've even got ex-Villa players in Dion Dublin saying high lines are stupid. Like, can we like not differentiate? Like, if we're being totally, like, I totally respect Ange having his principles of play, same with us, but ultimately Spurs dominated that game for a whole 15 minutes, got 2 men sent off, and then decided to camp 6 players on the halfway line trying to catch them out. Yeah. That ultimately, again, and I respect the principles of play, that was never going to work, especially when Chelsea get their second and third goals and to keep doing it. So the fact that Ange gets the praise, but then we've almost been dragged through the mud because of the banana skin that was Newcastle away, I just find that it's quite hypocritical, really, especially when we're talking about Unai Emery, who is a somewhat elite manager. But that's just my 2 cents on that, mate. Speaking of firsts, though, Diego Carlos gets first.
Yeah,
that was great. Shame, obviously, Clemens was taken away, but and it kind of ended a bit sourly for Diego because he goes down injured, and you're thinking, fucking brilliant. This is just what we want when we've seemingly rehabilitated you twice back to full fitness. And it's a shame that the occasion's tarnished by the injury. There hasn't really been too much said about that, mate, has there? But Unai is hoping that it's not too serious. And to be honest, if you're going to get injured, now's the time, because, after Sunday, we've got an international break.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with these kind of injuries, no news is usually good news.
Yeah.
Normally, when you kind of have an injury and it's a long one, the journos get wind of it and stuff like that, and slowly but surely it kind of creeps out that is going to be out for some time. And so, yeah, we'll definitely treat the fact that we haven't heard much as hopefully positive news. But I was so happy for him, man. So happy for him, because I had some doubts. I'll be honest, not some doubts, but some worries that, he's no spring check-in. He's in his 30s now. He's a centre half that very much relies on his speed and power. And normally such lengthy knee injuries can mean curtains for kind of players like that at that stage in their career. But he's come back wonderfully. Like Clement, he's been absolutely fantastic in the Conference League this year. He's now a really, really important part of the squad. Had a great game, I thought, on the whole yesterday. Won 100% of his aerial duels, 92 touches, completed 85 of his 87 passes, 10 entries into the final third, which is pretty amazing. 4 duels won, 1 tackle made, 1 shot, and a goal off 0.2 XG. All in a nice work for Diego, and his kind of trajectory and his return to full fitness and getting that goal on the European stage. Just, a wonderful kind of experience. And it must have been quite a bizarre time at the club for him, because he obviously signed into a completely different club under a completely different manager. Obviously, he was picked up. He feels like a new signing, but it's kind of crazy to remember that he's a Gerrard signing, and he must have seen all of this unfold, and the terrible form under Gerrard and the run under Unai, and picking it up towards the back end of the season and the European run, or whilst he was on the treatment table. And now he's kind of come back into this squad, which must feel and look, and the club must be so different. And now he's finally getting his time in the spotlight. So it must have been quite the ride for him on a personal level. But he's come back so well. It looks like he's taken his rehab so seriously, and it looks like he never left.
Yeah, he looks bigger, doesn't he? I thought he's clearly been in the gym working on his upper body while he's been rehabilitating that knee. But yeah, and again, it's good to kind of circle back to the point about Longley earlier on. Like, we need competition for places. It's healthy, it's good, and I think Ezri Konsa has improved tenfold. One, due to the pressure of him being the sort of main guy. Now Tyrone's out, but also the fact that he's not just got Courtney Hawes and Callum Chambers not even sniffing down his neck, because they weren't even that close. No disrespect intended at all to those guys, but when you're looking at Carlos and Longley and even Pau, sometimes that you're trying to keep out of a team, you're gonna be on your A game. And I'm just glad that we won this game, mate, because it wasn't pretty. It wasn't like we dominated the play for large portions, but we didn't necessarily look great.
No, agreed.
That's a sign of a good team. That is fundamentally the sign of a team that is on the up. And the Watkins goal, I was saying this to my dad. We was chatting about the Nottingham Forest game before we played AZ. And, the sort of lack of goals, but we created good chances. And I argued, I said that Ollie Watkins header, I think I even mentioned it on the podcast, at home, Ollie scores that header against Forest. And he proved my point last night. He did. It was almost an identical chance. Yeah. It's just a case of it, obviously Sunday, it not being Villa's day. And it's a brilliant goal. The ball from Douglas Luiz is sublime. I back Watkins to score in all of them situations. And again, he didn't necessarily have a great game, and I'm not singling him out, because I could say that probably for half the team. But the fact he's got his goal in the fashion that he did, obviously wins the game and puts us in a much stronger position now to hopefully come top of the group. That's all that matters, really.
Yeah, Ollie pops in with the goal, and he kind of needed it, really, because as you say, he was pretty quiet throughout the 90, I thought. But gets that goal, great for him, especially going into a home game against Fulham, where it's those kind of games in which he does score. So hopefully he can get on the score sheet this weekend. But it's all about that ball from Douglas, man. It's all about that ball from Douglas. What a player. what a player. It's just when you kind of bring him on in these games, there's almost an inevitability that he's going to do something and he'll pick a lock and find a pass. And kind of took him at the end of a week where he gets that call up back to the Seleção and he's back in the Brazil squad, and we know what that will mean to him. And I think that's very important to ensuring his pathway back to keeping in the Villa. That's the main thing, and getting maintaining this level and keeping him at the club to show that he can be a Brazilian international whilst playing for Aston Villa, that he doesn't have to make the move to Arsenal, as recent reports have kind of been suggesting. Fabrizio brought that one up yesterday. I'm sure that's something we'll talk about soon, mate. But yeah, it's a pleasure to watch him play football, and great for Ollie. Great for Ollie. Happy that he's back on the score sheet. And I think it's a shame that we kind of have to bring these guys on. I kind of keep saying this. I think it would be nice to give Dougie a full week's rest and everything like that. And I still think we need to figure out why there is this kind of intensity drop-off when we're playing in the Conference League. It never quite feels that we play at the same breakneck pace that we do on a Saturday. Maybe that's because it's group games, and I imagine as soon as you start to say, okay, this is knockout European football, that naturally that kind of ups the ante. And so we shouldn't have to kind of bring these guys on, but when they do, I mean, I'm never going to turn down an opportunity to watch them play for Villa, because Douglas Luiz is just special.
Oh mate, 100%. I think the problem is looking at the 11. Obviously discounting Emery, you've got Ezri, Dean, Boubacar, Diaby, McGinn, Watkins, and you could maybe count Bailey because he's been getting some healthy minutes off the bench on a Sunday for us. They're playing week in, week out. I am personally, on a personal level for Ezri, gutted that he's not going with the England squads, because what more can this guy do? But from a selfish Villa perspective, I'm glad, because he's finally going to get fucking rest. And it's the same for Dean. I don't think Dean gets back in this French squad now just because of the plethora of talent they've got at left back. No matter how well he plays, I don't think Dean he's over the hill when it comes to international football. So he'll, I'm sure, be grateful for the week's rest, can spend time with his wife and kids as well. I'm fearful for McGinn, if I'm being completely honest. I think he's the kind of guy that can play 90 minutes 3 times a week and you don't see a drop off, but we saw that lengthy spell during the sort of lockdown season, when football came back, how shit we were without John McGinn. So, you know, there's guys that I'm looking at and I'm like, I mean, Ollie realistically gets some minutes for England, but he's not going to play all the games. He's not going to play full 90s. I'm sure he'll probably score or whatever. He'll be involved, but not as worried about him. But Guinea, Booba's going away, but again, Booba doesn't really seem to play all that much when he goes away for France, which just perplexes me. But the squad could really do with 2 weeks off. No football, no grass, no nothing. These guys need to rest.
Yes, yeah, it's something about Ezri in the England squad, but I've said it before. I just don't think that, on the basis that I don't think Gareth Southgate takes Ezri to the Euros over his tried and tested guys in tournaments. I don't think he'll get called up before then, because it doesn't make sense. And so, yeah, I mean, he absolutely should do, but I don't think anybody that we've not seen before will go to that Euros. I think it will be all the familiar faces. And so on that ground, do you remember those rumours that Ezri was considering a switch to Portugal?
I do, yeah.
A couple of seasons ago. Be interesting to see if something like that resurfaces, because we're starting to see that with some of the other guys essentially making switches to other nations. It's becoming quite common in world football. And so whilst I don't think for a second that we're going to see Ezri popping up in the Portugal squad anytime soon, you're kind of if Matty Cash did it right, on the basis that, you know, it's kind of very similar situation. And if Matty Cash hadn't made that switch, I think he'd be on a very similar cusp that Ezri's on, whereby, you know, he's definitely been in good enough form to warrant an England call-up this season, but just recognises that door and the quality that we have, particularly at right back, was never going to open up for him. I think that given you're seeing guys like Lewis Dunk finally make the call up, and Brighton fans will be sort of making very similar arguments. There's about damn time. Lewis Dunk has probably been knocking on that door just because of how long he's been in the Premier League, slightly longer than Emery has. And so, yeah, Emery's time I hope will eventually come. I think it will eventually come, but I just don't think it will be in this current cycle.
No, I don't think. Yeah, you're right. I think there's only like 2 squads left now after this one before the World Cup. So you're not if you weren't in this one, there's no chance you're even being considered to go to Germany. Which, again, shame for Emery, but it'd be great to see Ollie on the plane come June, July time, whenever Euros is. But no, mate, happy with how that one went. Overall, the result is king. And, you know, it sets us up nicely for Fulham, which we're about to record. So, guys, we're going to have to end this podcast because we've got to preview Fulham. So if you enjoyed, let us know in the comment section down below. Let us know if you were there, if you enjoyed the game, all that kind of stuff. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify, thank you very much. Make sure you follow, share, leave a review. All that helps us out. And we're closing in on 15,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're literally 100 subscribers off. If we can get 15k by the end of the season, that would be amazing, because the channel's been in the mud. We're like trying so hard to revive it. You guys are seemingly responding to it, especially with the shorts and all that. So if you haven't already, we'd appreciate if you subscribe. And yeah, up the Villa.